Is it recording? Rotate device. Why would I want to rotate device? Let's rotate device. But I don't want to rotate device. I want my device to be unrotated. Why are you so annoying, you stupid phone? Okay, fine. Here, I'll rotate device. Okay, so this is a response. Let me see if I can get this stupid thing to hold the phone in this rotated direction. All right, so this is a response to all the responses that I'm reading about the Tango 2, and now I'm reading all your stuffs. And yes, you guys tell me what you want. Just if you want my opinion on any aspect of this controller. But I'm going to run through my mindset when I open the box of this controller and all my thought process and everything, and actually the response to what people are saying about the controller. So first and foremost, I agree with you guys. Well, clearly, I'm speaking totally candidly. I'm live streaming this, so if I say something stupid or do something stupid, I'm so sorry. I'm not like I censor anything, but sorry to TBS if I say something that's offensive, or sorry to anybody else if I offend you. I don't intend to offend anybody, and I do expect people to watch this video after it's finished as well. So the Tango 2, when I first opened the box, or what I was personally expecting, was I think the same thing that everybody else was expecting. We were all expecting the end-all be-all of controllers, like that one last thing that we will use and nothing else that we need to consider. Just use that one controller. Can I really not? Why can't I stream in portrait? It's so frustrating. Anyways, when I opened the box, I was actually pretty taken aback and surprised that I didn't get what I was expecting, and it was definitely not the end-all be-all of controllers. But then immediately my mind switched into considering what the controller is actually intended for and who it's intended for. And so then I started realizing that, oh, this controller is definitely not intended for me. I'm definitely not the market for this controller. It's not intended for the quote-unquote pro user or the general audience at all. I think this is, data wiring is fine. God damn it. Is it streaming still? Can you still hear me? Is it? Okay. I think it's still streaming. Okay, good. So this controller was definitely not intended for me, and I started going through the thought process of who it's actually intended for. And so if you think about, it's not really intended for only for newcomers, but if you think about the controller options that are generally recommended to newcomers, there's really only 3 that are really recommended, and that's these days at least. It's the T16, the X9 Lite, as well as the X Lite. The X Lite, which by the way I'll show you guys here, the stick travel on the X Lite, if you extend the stick to maximum distance, that's the stick travel of the Tango 2. It's actually maybe even still a teensy bit less than the Tango 2. So if the Tango 2 is 100%, the X Lite would be about 80%, and the X9 Lite would be about 110%, and the DX or 9XD, whatever, the QX7 and 9XD, your full travel gimbals, would be about 120, maybe even 125%. It is actually surprising how much more travel they have on them. And I think the reason why Kevin thought that the Tango 2 had full travel gimbals is because he's used to using the Nirvana. I think that's his primary controller, last I remember, and that thing has even less travel than this. So I think that's why I thought it had full travel gimbals, but it definitely does not have full travel gimbals. It really is annoying, but I sort of give it a free pass a little bit. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's talk about the controllers that are typically recommended when newcomers are starting into this sport, this hobby, all this stuff. It's the T16, X9 Lite. Nobody really recommends Futaba or Spectrum or stuff. I mean, some people do, but it's not quite as common. And the primary reason the T16 is such a fantastic controller is because it has pretty much 100% freedom in all areas. You can put whatever module you want into it. It comes with a multi whatever module. You can use OpenTX with it, and it has nice gimbals. It's a nice shape. So everything is kind of sort of wonderful all around about that controller, so it makes sense for people to recommend that controller. But there are some shortcomings to that controller as well. Number one, it's a little intimidating. You have this big giant screen that you never need to use, but you have this big giant screen, so it's a little intimidating, so you think you need to do something with it. It's really a lot bigger than it needs to be. We don't need a big giant screen, and the sticks are still not full travel. The gimbal sticks on the T16 are actually less travel than the X9 Lite. So I personally don't recommend that controller because of those reasons. I prefer to recommend the X9 Lite, even though the X9 Lite has this stupid module bay, which honestly I was expecting TBS to have their own custom, whatever, proprietary module bay with this controller as well, and I was really surprised to find out that they didn't have it. But again, that's not what this controller is intended for. One thing that the X Lite and the Tango 2 don't have are trims. So you're not going to be using these controllers for planes, and that's okay because the vast majority of people entering this market or in this market don't really fly planes. So that's okay. But if you look at the options for the newcomer, you can get the T16, and it is a fantastic controller, but you then have to get the Crossfire module if you want Crossfire, and it's a little bit more cumbersome to use. It takes a little bit more know-how to kind of get started, and that's really fine for us, but it's not so fine for the newcomer and the new user. And so the Tango 2 is probably, I'm speculating here, this is not real, they haven't told me this. I'm speculating that the Tango 2 is really intended for the newcomer and the intermediate novice, or somebody that just has a really old crummy controller or bought some crappy FlySky something or other that's really old because they thought they were saving money from buying a $30 controller to whatever. And so that's who the Tango 2 is really intended for. So it sort of makes sense to me for it to be the way it is. Now, a lot of the complaints that people have, I agree with entirely, wholeheartedly. I think the 250 milliwatt thing is annoying, but I think they also did it for FCC clearance because they already had their Crossfire cleared with FCC, so the baby Crossfire. So totally makes sense why they put 250 milliwatt in here. And 99% of people will not need more than 250 milliwatt. Even with my micro stuff with the crappy antennas, they are fine on 250 milliwatt. The one thing that really does deter this controller from use for the novice or mid-range market or low-end or incoming market is the fact that you can't connect it to D16, and you don't have the option to run whoops and things. And that's why I posted in the TBS lounge that, can you please, for the love of all things holy, make us some whoop boards or toothpick style boards or micro something or others with Crossfire built into them. I know you can do it. I know you guys love to not compromise your beautiful Crossfire protocol, but please, we don't need to go 30 miles. We just want one solid mile. That's it. It doesn't matter at all if it goes past a mile. We just want one good solid mile through trees and shrubs and buildings and everything. That's all we really need, and it doesn't need to be that thick of trees and shrubs and buildings and everything. So please make us some whoop boards. And I think it's absolute blasphemy that people even consider asking TBS to support FrSky protocols on their products. They are not things that should be mixed, and I agree with TBS entirely on this because FrSky has, in my opinion, infringed upon a lot of TBS designs. Now, it's up to your opinion if you think they have or have not, or if it's open market or whatnot. I don't agree with the general mentality that I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to dig myself in a hole if I continue there. But basically, that's really the only lacking thing about the Tango 2. Now, talking about the rest of the product, the rest of the complaints that people have, yes, the gimbals are annoying. Yes, the screen is small, but it's a non-issue. Use a magnifying glass if you can't see the screen the first time you set it, and you never have to set it again. I honestly was not even going to put a screen on my own controller product until I was like, yeah, it really just makes it easier. I was going to have people change settings with a cell phone, so whatever. The battery being built in, I haven't run my battery down, and my controller didn't have the battery calibrated, so I didn't even know what the voltage was. I used it for like a day and a half straight, and it didn't run out of battery, so I don't think the battery is an issue. However, I do wish it did have a replaceable battery. And 250 milliwatt Crossfire is annoying, and the screen is small, and the gimbals, there's really no other complaints. But the one thing that you guys are not really noticing or recognizing, you don't notice until you hold the darn thing, is the actual fit of the controller, the fit, the finish, the feel, the size, the shape. And this is what takes all of the time to actually design and make. It's so hard to convey how difficult it is to actually get a controller that's the right size, the right shape, the right dimensions to fit your hands, and then make it work for thumbing and pinching at the same time. I mean, thumbs are easy. You just make a gamepad style controller and it's thumbs, and it's going to work fine for thumbing. For pinching, it's really hard to make a controller work out, especially for large hands and small hands. And that is one benefit of having smaller or shorter throw gimbals, but I would prefer to have a longer throw gimbals. But the overall thickness, girth of this controller, the shape, the fact that the bottom here is a little bit thicker, the way it's curved the way it is, where this ridge is on the bottom side, I mean, I can't emphasize enough how delicate it is, the positioning of all these things, the curve at the top here where your finger rests up here, all this stuff is just so temperamental and tiny and delicate. I mean, I do detail for a living, so I look at all these details and this is how I think about things, but I can't praise them enough on the actual feel of this controller. And for that price that they're selling this thing for, this fit and finish and feel is worth it, because there's nothing else on the market that has this kind of just such a comfortable feel for all things human hands. I mean, some of these controllers, honestly, the Nirvana was the worst thing I ever held. It didn't fit any human's hands. I don't know what they were thinking. It's just too radical. But this thing is fantastic in that respect. And then the other complaint that people are saying is that it looks like a toy. I mean, really? Come on. I mean, this is an industry where we're flying random bits of carbon with crap strapped to them. I mean, there's nothing that looks pretty in our industry. We love it because we know what it does and we just have this emotional attachment to it. But if you really think about what we're flying, they're not pretty, and everything in this industry is form and function mixed. Like, that's why I love things so much in this industry, because it's not really beauty. It's function first, then form, then everything else. And so function first, then just make it look reasonable. And they have done a more than reasonable job with this controller. And another thing about toy controllers, I would prefer this thing to look like a toy controller, because if somebody comes up to me to complain, they look at what I'm holding and it doesn't look like a threatening monstrosity. It looks like a freaking toy. They can't be upset at me for playing with a stupid toy. Okay, so I've said all the things. Now, what I would want TBS to do, I would beg and hope and pray that TBS does, is make us some freaking whoop boards that can work with micros and do all that micro stuff, because that stuff is a huge market, and I think they truly are not realizing that, and it's really frustrating that I keep asking for this stuff over and over and over. I think I will get to the point where I will pay them or royalties or something to allow them for me to build in a Crossfire into a whoop board that somebody else will make for me, because it's ridiculous at this point for us not to have Crossfire built in whoop boards. They would annihilate the market if they had that. Please, for the sake of all things holy, just make it already. And also micro stuff. Okay, so now, please, you guys, let me know questions or other complaints that people have about this controller, about the pricing and the affordability. I mean, it's got Crossfire built into it, and it's a very reasonable price for what you're getting, Crossfire, and the fact that you really don't need anything else for 99% of the things you're going to do with this controller. I'm not defending it. I don't really have any allegiances with any particular company. I respect TBS pretty much as I possibly could respect a company for what they do and what they're able to put out. But yeah, this is not a bad product. This is definitely not a bad. This is way up on the list of good products. It's not a product on the list of bad products. It just may not fit your potential needs. But okay, so now ask questions. How many models? There's 2 models. There's a Pro model and a regular model. 1Y. I really wish that we did 1Y. Tall video things. It's so annoying. It doesn't let me stream in portrait mode. I'm so sorry. It's so freaking annoying. Crossfire V2, exactly. This is a $150 controller that has Crossfire and everything built into it. So it's really like a starter controller that happens to work out for the vast majority of your RC career. So they did a great job in that respect. Now there's some messages from Facebook. They won't make the CR board because of branding. Some people are saying that they won't make a whoop board because of branding, or because they don't want to compromise the radio signal, which I know that's probably why. I don't like the X-Lite because it's tiny. Because the idiots used the wrong batteries for the X-Lite. The gimbals are nice, but they're micro. I think I had a BlackBerry back in the day that had bigger gimbals than this X-Lite. Like, it's ridiculous, the gimbals that they put on this thing. It's so freaking fat and thick that they could have put full-size gimbals in this thing. That being said, I think it does feel great for pinching. It's not nowhere near as good as the Tango 2, but I do think it feels particularly nice for pinching, and it's excellent for thumbs. But I'm not a fan of this thing because the gimbals they feel nice and smooth. The springs are just way too weak, and the gimbals are just way too small. It's just not for me. I did use it in the start orientation. I'm angry because they did so many stupid things on the X Lite. It's like some of these companies just don't have any common sense at all. Like, what did you? Who uses an 18500 battery? Like, it's not even a common battery in any industry at all. There's no point. I like the folding gimbals of the Pro version. I do like. I think it is really cool. I personally wouldn't spend the money for them. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think there's enough of a concern about your gimbals breaking or bending or something in a bag. I don't think they get enough force in a bag. New industry leader? What? Who's the new industry leader? The controller? I don't know. I think TBS. Okay, I think TBS should be absolutely killing it in this industry. They should own the entire market. I mean, they are right next to China, right next to the manufacturers. They have all of the innovation. They have all of the development potential. It is hard for me to believe that TBS will do poorly moving forward just because they have all that. And they kind of don't need to work that hard either, because some of these companies just don't know what on earth they're doing because they have zero common sense for some reason. Because of downward force. I mean, I've gotten lazy and I just throw my controllers in my bag, so I've never had a gimbal bad on me. I also don't jostle my bags around too much. Switch to the Tango. No, I'm not switching to the Tango completely. I'm still been using my X9 Lite because that has longer travel gimbals and it lets me use my full-size Crossfire. For those two reasons, I have to use it. It's useless for whoops and things, but whatever, I have to use it for that. I'm still trying to figure out how I can get this stupid thing, the X9 Lite, to connect to D8 or D16 whoops, because it's because I can't get the stupid firmware to work with the modules that I've gotten. What's my least favorite controller? uh, I I would honestly have to say the controller that I'm most angry at is the Nirvana, because I mean they just went too far on the form and shape of that thing. I think it's just blasphemy how far they went. It's a great feeling, quality, everything is fantastic. It's just, come on, that shape is ridiculous. I don't know. There's so many controllers that I dislike. It's hard to choose one. Gimbal length can be adjusted. I actually forgot to go over that. Gimbal length can be adjusted. You can lengthen the gimbal, but lengthening the gimbals is just not the same as a larger gimbal. I know it's very similar, and really a larger gimbal is pretty much just lengthened gimbals, but here is the maximum gimbal. And compared to the X9 Lite, the maximum stick length on the Tango 2 is about the same. However, when you're holding the controller, the stick is so high above the actual controller rim that it makes it really unwieldy, because your fingers have to be so high up in the air, and so it feels like it's like flopping over. So you kind of need more thickness, or the gimbal just needs to sit lower into the controller in order to be able to lengthen the sticks and comfortably be able to. I've thought about this stuff a lot. I've thought about this stuff a lot. I broke the end of my gimbal top. I mean, I've never broken anything on my bag like that. Oh, I mean, I would throw it in the water. I just don't want to go get it. I really would throw it in the water. I just don't want to go get it. You're going to miss the FPV monitor? No, I'm not going to miss the FPV monitor. Who wants a 5.8 monitor on? People don't appreciate. Find out a slight. Oh, I'm getting messages from Messenger. Then get back into things. I'm going to stop this at 20 minutes because 20 minutes is long enough. Yes, the lack of USB charger is ridiculous in the X Lite as well. Completely unrelated with thoughts on the new 616. I don't know what's new about the new T16. It looks the same to me. It looks exactly the same. Stick the watch on it. Sure, you can stick this. The watch is awesome. I love the watch. I'd stick the watch on my controller too, but it's like an add-on. It's not something I need. I use the what is that bag? The FPV Helipack by Think Tank. The Think Tank FPV Helipack is the only bag that I've used for all these years, and it's fantastic. There's no bag that even begins to compare. Falco X, maybe. Who knows? Of course I like kebab. Who doesn't like kebab? I love the food. Some people like the Tango 1 screen. I really don't see a point to the Tango 1 screen. Is the stick trick worth the money? I don't think the stick trick is worth the money. What RX is compatible? Only the micro Crossfire RX is the only one that you're going to be using on this controller. Tango 2 has a single, there's somebody that has opened it up and shows you all the insides. Tango 2 has a single large lithium cell. Turn evolution. The evolution was okay for the time. Actually, it wasn't very okay for the time. I don't think it was a very good controller. But hey, it gave us the gamepad style controller that we wanted to do. Can you do a backflip? I can't do a backflip. Can you hit? Can hit do a backflip? I don't know who hit is. Radio link, we put lipo, whereas. Thank you so much for watching my videos and enjoying my content. I appreciate it very much. I cannot appreciate everybody that watches my stuff more than they already do, and I just hope to be doing this stuff more and more in the future. Push in the control wheel. Oh, push in the control wheel? What? Push in the control wheel twice? What does that do? What does push in the control wheel twice do?
Welcome to Tango 2. Throttle warning. Switch warning. Rudder trim.
Oh my gosh! It has trim! Holy moly!
Elevator trim.
Holy crap!
Trim.
Okay, so,
trim.
well, I mean, you're not going to be trimming this thing in the air. so it's, you could trim it, just, I still don't call that trim. I mean, it's nice that it has it, but that's not really trim. TBS has the potential to run by immature people who don't know how. Yeah, that's true, but I'm not going to even repeat it. So if you was successful as the T1, none of this matters. Was the T1 successful? I honestly thought it was a kind of a flop because I was so confused by the form factor and what it looks like. How do you adjust the gimbal tension? It does have springs, softer gimbal. You're not going to have to adjust gimbal tension. It's fine. Gimbal tension is good. It's stiff enough for everybody that likes stiff gimbals, and it's weak enough for people that don't like stiff gimbals. It does come with weaker springs, but I don't think you're going to have to worry about the spring tension. It's $150 for the, I think it's $150 for the regular version. Then the Pro version is, I think, $200, or I think it's $160 for the regular version. What's different about the T16S? I think it's the same thing. They specs out I don't the T16 and all the stuff from that company, the Radiolink company, their gimbals are tiny. I don't know why they don't use larger gimbals. It's really frustrating. If they just had a full-size gimbal on T16, I would be using that controller. Regular and Pro is only the sticks that fold. The sticks that fold are the only difference between the regular and the Pro version of the Tango 2, which for some reason mine is not folding. But there you go. That's how it folds. Folds fully and directly. It's not a multi-protocol. It only does Crossfire, and that is one annoyance that you can't use whoop stuff on it. Oh, no. Not a single person at my work has ever flown. No desire. Yeah, $50 for folding sticks. It's $50 more because this mechanism is apparently really difficult to make. I don't know why they had a Pro version. It doesn't make sense to me why they had a Pro version. I personally would have just said, okay, nobody needs folding sticks really. Let's just make it one controller instead of a Pro version and a regular version. People don't use USB-C because they have to pay. They have to pay for the USB-C. They have to pay for the right to use USB-C. I don't know if this is a Chinese copy of a USB-C or not. I'm pretty sure it's probably a legitimate USB-C. So they have to pay royalties to the USB Commission or whatever to use the USB-C thing. And I also think the circuits and systems that cost a little bit more for the USB-C as well. It is very sad that it doesn't have the light bay. I fly micros at work all the time. That's all I fly is my 1S baby tooth, the 3-inch 1S thing. I don't fly anything else on a regular basis. I just don't have any time. Arming sequence with the buttons? Oh, it's this. I don't have arming sequence. I just click the button. It's armed. Click the button, it's armed. And then I have my turtle mode is up on this switch. And so that's it. I just push it and it's done. X9 Lite S? What the hell is X9 Lite S? I don't know what that is. Oh, is that the one that they came out, like another one that they came out? It's the same thing. I don't know what's different about it. I don't know why they keep coming out with the same product over and over. They should just hype the same old product over and over. Pro controller for your iPhone 11 Pro Plus Pro. You'd be pro. You'd be super pro with all your pro everything. X9 Light S Baby Tooth is just, yeah, is the Baby Tooth is just the best imaginable daily flyer that I've ever had. It is so good. The reason why I'm not marketing or making more videos or doing anything about the toothpick and baby light is because there's just no motors in stock. We're just waiting for thousands of motors to arrive after Chinese New Year, but now we're worried if there's freaking coronavirus in shipment. So we don't know what to do about that. We're waiting for China's waiting for all that stuff to die down so that it would be not infectious and no issue. How pro are you? I am so pro. I fly multiple GoPros on my quads, and I use pro controllers, and I have a pro phone. Everything is pro. I'm pro. I'm also a pro when I'm at work, so I'm a multi-pro. I personally would recommend the Baby Tooth over the TP3. Absolutely. I think the Baby Tooth had the value proposition of the Baby Tooth is so amazingly good that I don't even fly my TP3 anymore. I only fly the Baby Tooth because it's just so fun to fly something that's so light and tiny and doesn't bother anybody and has such incredible performance for what it is. So yeah, I think the value proposition of the Baby Tooth is way greater than the TP3. It's just so much simpler and easier to use as well. And you're not going to break it. I do use EV800 occasionally when my other goggles are out of batteries. You want us to tooth board over this thing? Yeah, I said already. Taking motors. Rubbing alcohol on the motors. I don't know if alcohol kills the things, kills the coronavirus. I only have 2 TP3s that work. One with the old Amoxino motors that I'm scared to fly because apparently the shafts are made of cheese and they keep breaking on people, which I've never broken one, but hey, that's what happens to other people. Which they're supposed to come with a new motor, but they haven't yet. Which I don't know if we're going to carry it or not. We're only going to carry our one motor. My goal is to simplify things. Less is more. Having less options is better, in my mind. NanoCam is the best. NanoCam is the Nano 3, or like the best light NanoCam for whoops and things is easily, in my opinion, the Nano 3. Is buy a crossfire module added to your existing X9 light? Absolutely, add it to the X9 light. That's what I do. I buy a crossfire module that adds my X9 light. That's why I use the X9 light. I don't have it installed right now because I've bricked it for some reason, but it just clips onto the back of this thing. It's got those 2 wires coming out the back of it, so it's really easy. Buttons were in switches. I like the buttons better because it's more definitive when you push them. With the switches, I can't really, when I'm flying and the switch is in the middle, I can't feel exactly where the switch is. Like, I don't want to switch it because it'll change a mode or something, and I have, like, this is my turtle mode, so I don't want to change it, but I prefer these because I can always feel that this button is down, and I can always feel that this button is toggled in any direction. So I prefer the buttons, actually, or I prefer these. 55 degrees Celsius, get cray. It's not on our site yet. We're gonna get a batch, but we're just 2 people at this point, so we don't have time to be really on top of everything. We're pretty darn good, but we're focusing more on developing and moving forward rather than picking up stuff that are pre-existing. My radio is not, I don't know if it's ever going to come out. If somebody wants to fund my radio, or if, I would even be willing to work with any store to actually fund my radio and have it completed, because I do think it has some features on it that are very compelling, and it is kind of the end-all be-all of all features combined into one, and it's a little bit smaller as well. Josh is my other person. He's awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better person to run this store with. I've tried other people in the past, but just haven't worked out. Josh is awesome. Mamba board for sure. Oh no, you can't. The Mamba board is only for 3S. It's not for 1S. The 1S, all the boards suck. I mean, the Hummingbird from Newbie Drone is probably one of the better ones. I mean, there's only 2: the Hummingbird or the Beta FPV. Both of them have broken on me, so it's hard to. I'm not satisfied with either option. Both are fine, or equally as good. Josh has been around the industry for a while as well. He's just kind of been in and out. He hasn't been so public or social about it, but I've known him for a long time. My design has full throw gimbals, absolutely. I will not, I wouldn't even make the product if it didn't have full throw gimbals. I'd be like, hell no, go away, I don't want this. I would be willing to work with any company to actually manufacture my controller. Right now, my controller is at FlySky. They have all the components, everything ready to go finished, and they can start actually producing it, but they require money. And if the company that I was working with didn't disappear, they would have had the clout to just say, go for it, do it, we'll cover the costs, and it's going to sell well anyway, so we'll definitely be able to cover it. Yeah, Beta FPV board, the Beta 1S board does hold up okay for the most part. Finder. I have a hard time doing like Kickstarters for it, especially since this isn't my primary job. What about preschool? Will you work? I would love to work with. I love working with schools. I teach so much schools. I'm a faculty at 3 dental schools. It's so fun. I love teaching students. But I've thought about doing a Kickstarter or something multiple times, but I don't do this stuff. This isn't my primary role, my primary job. I really just do this stuff for fun on the side. I would love to do it more. I'm hoping to move into it more and more, but I don't feel right asking for all that Kickstarter funding and then giving it a percentage to kick. I'd rather just do it on my own website if I'm going to do that. But I use people's money to get the production going and it doesn't work out, which has happened multiple times to me in the past with many products. I'm kind of SOL having spent everybody else's money, and that's not cool with me. I can't do that. I won't feel comfortable with doing that. So I would much rather have one investor kind of take the potential risk, which really there isn't risk. I just don't have the finances to be able to fund it 100% myself and kind of potentially take that risk. I mean, if it's a business, if it's like any of these FPV stores, they can kind of float that risk and it's going to end up being a product no matter what because they can continue funding it if necessary. So it really is going to require funding from somebody in the industry that's willing to put forth that money. And I don't even know if it's worth it anymore because controllers like the Tango 2 are coming out, and it's not like my controller falls in the same category as the Tango 2, but now we have so many options that the value proposition of making a new controller, even though it has so many new options and new features and things that people have never seen and has kind of hits all the points that people want it to hit, it's still hard to sell that value proposition with full knowing that a couple of companies are already working on controllers and everybody's trying to go after that end all be all of controllers. I'm not going to show a picture of the radio. I have many videos and things of the radio. I'm not going to show it at all. Some people have seen it in the community. They've been very silent and quiet about it. I appreciate that very much, but I'm not going to show it because it's very obvious. Some of the features that I've built into it are so obvious that it would just immediately be copied. Like it's so obvious that you should do it that way. So it's not, or maybe I'm just big-headed and I'm thinking it's so obvious, but truly when people see it, or if people ever see it, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that makes so much more sense. Why isn't it done that way? Oh, I would love to go to Switzerland. Radio name, I have no idea what the name would be. The Molar, no clue. Okay, I'm going to go. 32 minutes is enough. My girlfriend's going to be really upset at me. Okay, bye. How do I exit this thing? Floss your teeth.